to Jerry Walsh. Grandpa,
Hi, Chris.
what was it like when you were in 4th grade?
When I was in 4th grade, let me see what my 4th grade teacher's name was. 4th grade teacher was Sister Ellen at the St. Cecilia's High School in Pennsylvania. And what was it like? Oh,
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We didn't have all the fun you kids have today because in those days we only had for recess period we used to get our recreation, go out and do calisthenics, and at 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. And of course we had our lunch hour that we could do whatever we wanted to after we had our lunch. And 3:30 we got out of school. And we used to go out in the football season. We'd watch the varsity football team practice after school. And same thing in basketball season. After school, we'd go out and watch them practice. And, of course, Saturday's game came when we were watching everything that the varsity teams were doing in baseball, basketball, football, boxing, wrestling.
All right,
Pretty much about the same you're doing today, I imagine.
what subjects did you study?
At that time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had just a regular curriculum, reading, writing, and math, the 3 R's, right?
Did you have gym, art, and music?
Gym and music?
Gym, art, and music.
Gym, art, and music. Well, we didn't have too much of an art program in those days, but we did have a little bit of gymnasium work, and it was mostly, it was kind of a small school in those days, like 35 students, not big centralized schools like we have here in Ilion. And as far as you said gym, art and the music, we had a music program they used to take and rent. At that time, they would come in and rent you a violin or a trumpet, a saxophone for 10 cents a session.
Did you...
Which about 45 minutes, Chris. The session lasted about 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Did you eat lunch in school?
Well, yeah. We used to brown bag it. You know what a brown bag is, don't you? And everybody had their brown bag, and this was during the heart of the Depression, and they used to have the school used to have milk in there for all the students to make sure that they had all of their everybody had enough milk to take and meet their daily requirements. That was back in the early 30s.
What did you do with your free time?
With the free time? Well, at 4th grade now. You're talking 4th grade only? Oh, after free time, I used to take and come home, help my mother, clean the yard in certain times. In the wintertime, I'd help her I'd shovel the snow. And also after school in those days, you see, there was a big depression on, and a lot of people were out of work. So anybody that wanted to stay warm, you had to split your own wood, and you had to take care of your picking your coal and cracking the coal to suit the furnace, and everybody stayed nice and warm and happy.
What kind of games did you play?
Oh, I played a little bit of, in those days, we were a little football. In the football days, I lost a couple of teeth around that time, and in the front, but they grew in after a bit. And what else? In baseball season, baseball. And we weren't into basketball at that time. You didn't get into basketball in those days until you were in high school. Junior high school didn't even have basketball at that time. Only when you were in the freshman and sophomore years.
Did you have your own bicycle?
I had my own bicycle, yeah. And sometimes you'd have to take and look for it a little bit because maybe your two other brothers might have that one bicycle. Can you believe that? We had one bicycle, but we used to use it when one had to go someplace or another. But we shared it. And we got along with it.
What was your community like when you were in 4th grade?
What was it like? In what way, Chris?
Like businesses and stores.
Oh, stores? Oh, my goodness. In the stores, you used to take and have Mary Jane's. You used to get 3 for a penny. You know, Mary Jane candies are Tootsie Rolls. They were a penny apiece. And Hershey bars. You could get a great big Hershey bar. Like maybe you pay 40 cents for it today. It used to be a nickel. And Mr. Goodbar came out around that time too. And they were a nickel also. And the candies, the lollipops, they were all a penny. Penny candies were the big things at the stores. And of course we used to get ice cream. Ice cream was so a whole pint of ice cream would only cost a dime at that time, and a Coca-Cola was a nickel. Nice Coca-Cola. And then Pepsi came out too, and they were selling them for like a nickel also. And the Powerhouse candy bars, they were a nickel. Those great big bars that you pay 45 cents for today, they were a nickel. I think they're about 45 cents, I think, for a candy bar like that, maybe 50.
What was the town like?
Oh, well, it was nothing like the fancy towns that we have today. They had a lot of dirt roads, and there was no macadam on the roads, no concrete. They were kind of just a red ash. They used to save the ashes for the coal, and they'd come out there and they'd pour, and they'd surface the street with those and make them as hard as could be. The towns, and of course there was no electricity, you know. We used to lamp, when I was like in 4th grade, I think the electricity was just coming out in most of the places, and they had gas lamps. There used to be a lamplighter come around, like when it got dark at 6 o'clock in October or 6:30. They'd come along about 6:15 and light up the street lamps, and they come around the next day and shut them off. Refrigerators was just coming out, and around that time, a lot of places still were using ice boxes. And they'd have to, every other day, the man would come and deliver you 25 pounds of ice. And he'd put it in your ice box, and if it melted down a little bit fast, the next time you have to take and get maybe a 35-cent piece of ice, or 35 pounds. And I think maybe it was around 15 cents. And automobiles were very few and far between. But you know how much your daddy has to pay for an automobile today, and all these people, you see these cars, 12, 15, 18,000. You could buy a brand new Ford or Chevrolet for about $850, a real good one.
Did you have TVs and refrigerators?
TV, that wasn't even a figment of our imagination at that time. We were listening to radios and things like that, Amos and Andy, Cecil and Sally. And well, I think Jack Benny was on the air in those days. No TV. That wasn't even. Buck Rogers was around. They had the Buck Rogers cartoon strips, you know, the Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and all these things that you read about now, and the space program. Well, these were all imaginary of this man that wrote that strip, and he had all these here spaceships going from Mars to Venus and Mars and all over the space program. Everything that's going on in the space program now was a dream of this man. He used to have a comic strip.
Did you have phones, or did you just...
Telephones. Every 10th house maybe had one phone. They had a party line and 4 neighbors. Everybody pick up the phone, one ring, and no privacy, no private lines like you have today. And they used to have a crank on some of the phones. You had to ring up the operator, like you see in television and from some of the old movies that you see today from England, where they have to crank. You remember that? You ever seen those? Yeah.
Did you... What, Grandpa, this is like a movie. What kind of movies did you have in those days?
Oh, well, we had mostly cowboys and serial type movies on Saturdays. It would be the Hurricane Express. And the Hurricane Express was all about trains and railroading. And there used to be a lot of holdups and derailments and things of that nature. Tom Mix was a big cowboy star at that time. Hut Gibson, Ken Maynard, and he had a sight gun that used to have a long barrel about 8-9 inches long, and he was a big strapping cowboy. And I recollect a lot of in those days. I think Bing Crosby was just beginning his fabulous career. And he sang Pennies from Heaven, and all kinds of numbers of that description. That was long before any of the real big name stars that you hear about today that have 40 and 50 year careers.
How much did it usually cost to get in?
Oh, most of them were, they used to call them a nickelette. You could go in for a nickel. And a matinee program, you could go in and watch 2 or 3 different times, the same movie 2 or 3 different times. And you really got to know all of them back in those days. Dick Powell was beginning his fabulous career. And Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, they were also big stars. They were on radio as well. Radio was the real big thing, and movies was a real treat. I mean, a nickel, and you could go in the afternoon, like I said, and watch it all day long. How long did, now you have to come out after each showing, don't you? It used to be a continuous show at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Enjoyed it.